Hello.
Evening. Aaron, I'll be right back. I'm just going to grab some water.
Yep. We'll just wait another 2 minutes or so, give people time to join in. Thanks for joining. Again, hi there, everyone. People are definitely joining in, so we'll give it another minute before we start. I know we're running up against Minion at 8:30, so we'll start in just another minute. Okay, lots of people joining in. Wonderful. Great. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully you can hear me. If everyone just make sure that they are on mute when they're not speaking, just so we don't have any issues there. And again, thanks for everyone joining. I know this was short scheduling and then the time change and all that, but so I apologize. We just needed to get this in by the end of the month or end of the year. So yes. So our agenda today, and again, our goal is to keep this short and sweet, to try to wrap it up by 8:30 for Minion. So we're going to do a quick recap of some recent events. The rabbi typically likes doing this. The rabbi is not available today. He's, I believe, in the car driving. The timing didn't work out for him, but we needed to schedule this. So I've got some things to show from him. We will mention we have a new inclusion chair on the board. We'll get a financial update, and then some updates on new machzorim and the front lobby renovations, as well as some of the survey results from the Yom Tovim. And then at the end, just any open discussion items from any of the members. Feel free to use the chat if you want to type something in, or any questions or items to discuss, and we'll go from there. I assume everyone can see my screen and you can hear me okay?
Aaron, do you need us to all type in our names? Do you have a record of quorum?
Yeah, thank you. That's usually recommended. Yes, if you can just type in into the chat everyone first and last name. That way we have, because sometimes people have different screen names on Zoom or depending on what device you are on. So yes, thank you very much, Naomi. Okay. So the past few months, we had the New England Yoetza Halacha event in November. We had sukkah decorating with the Benot. The board did our first ever board retreat. We were planning to do it at Borderland, and the weather did not cooperate, so we did it in the rabbi's backyard. And it was to help bring the board together, team building and talking about communication and how to be a successful board. The 6 Decades Plus group has done a lot of things. There was a dinner recently. They did a tour of the Ames Mansion. We had the Yom Chesed event, and the bar and bat mitzvah clubs have started off as well. We just had our Hanukkah events. Thanks to Adam Rhodes for coordinating a lot of that, as well as everyone who helped with that those events. So that was great, and the Antlemans for lending out their house for that. A couple pictures of that event you can see here, as well as we had the other event, the tie-dye event in Shul. You can see a packed house. We saw how olive oil was made, and we were able to, some of the kids helped pressing the olives, and we actually were able to light the olive oil on fire. Pretty cool. We have a new inclusion chair I mentioned, Abby Phillips. So she's going to work on ensuring inclusion to help make sure various demographics in our shul are represented and included for various events and activities. Traditionally inclusion was always thought of as kind of one specific aspect or item, and we're trying to broaden that to talk about inclusion of different types of communities and groups in our shul, and we're trying to spread that across all of our board roles to make sure that when we're doing different events, different activities across everything, that we're being inclusive as well. So welcome to her. And you'll see more information. We're going to have posted shortly in Shul a board, so you can kind of see some information about the different board members posted up on the wall. With that, I will pass it over to David Newman for a financial update. I assume you'll share your screen there.
Yes. Hi, everyone. David, I'm the treasurer, and I'm going to share a financial update. So give me a second to share here. Can you all see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, so just to give everyone a context of what you're looking at, I prepared a report to look at the actual income and actual expenses from July 1st, the beginning of our fiscal year, through November 30th. So 2021, it's really, July 1st, 2021 through November 30th, 2021, and then the same for this year. So it's 5 months out of our fiscal year. The next column over to the right is the budget for this entire fiscal year. And then the next 2 columns is percent of the budget that we've raised on income or we've brought in on income. And then on the bottom half, which we'll get to, is the expenses, what we've spent of that. And then what's remaining to bring in an income or in what is remaining to spend. So a couple notes. As you can see, we have brought in less money this year as of November 30th compared to last year. But it's important to point out that last year we received $45,000 from the government from a PPP loan, and we knew we were not getting that money again this year. We were blessed with, I think it was 2 PPP loans prior. The $45,000 was one before, the year before that as well. So while we are bringing in less income, in 2022. Right, doing some math, if you take out the $45,000, we would really only we wouldn't be so far behind on our, we would be ahead of our income based on that alone. Jumping down to, I do want to point out for high holidays, the high holidays Aliyot number, donations were up for Aliyot. The appeal was down, so much so that I'm noting it in this report. So when the rabbi or the gabbai or someone else calls, give generously, or they might call as a friendly reminder to pay a pledge. This is based on cash, not pledges. So that's also something to point out. So yes, we did raise more money for high holidays in total this year compared to last year. But remember, we did raise the price of seats, and I think we probably had more people. But in the Yom Tovim report, one of my fellow board members can comment on that. For expenses, so we are spending more than we spent last year, but that is because, you know, as we all know, we are living in with inflation, and prices have gone up. But with all that said, the good news is, if we did not have the PPP loan last year, our net income would not have been 151. It would have been 105. So we really are only behind our net income from last year at this point by $4,700-ish. So we are in, I would say, a good place. Two other points, and then I'm going to stop talking and I'll take questions. And I also can share a cash, update, a balance sheet update. It's been 5 months, but we've brought in 66% of our income that we've budgeted to bring in, and we've only spent 45% of our budget in 5 months. So, we're close to the 50%, but we're also a month away from, November 30th is obviously only 1 month away from the midway point. With that, I will take any questions.
Yeah, I think there was a question from Matthew Slater about July to November, and I assume that's just because we haven't closed out the books for December yet, so we're just rounding
or comparison. I get it.
Yep.
Yes, that is correct. We haven't closed out December yet, hence it is obviously the 27th, and then yes.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
First, if the PPP is a loan, what are the provisions for paying it back?
Great question. So the good news is both of our PPP loans were officially forgiven. So I guess technically we should just write PPP grant moving forward. We do not have to pay that $45,000 back. It is ours and ours to keep.
Okay. The other question I have is that I saw, if you can go back up to the top.
You bet.
Okay. So I see that while donations are down, fundraising is up. Is it possible that some of the loss of donations is due to things that ended up being fundraising?
That is possible. I can I'll speak to Sandy and we'll get a breakdown of what makes up the 19,000 this year and what makes up the 3,000. It could be a coding thing. That's a good point.
Right.
Good question.
And also things like the high holidays includes things like lulavim and etrog, which prices went up. So that's going to look like more income for high holidays when it really wasn't income, because it comes right back out of the expense side.
Right. I can actually say I have the breakdown for lulav and etrog. We actually last year, it's kind of crazy, we spent $9,781, or we brought in $9,781 in income, and this year we brought in $9,790. So a whopping $9 more in lulav and etrogs. But yeah, that all comes in and goes out because the shul doesn't make money on that.
Yeah, and then another point is on under the expense side, this year we have a youth director, whereas
Yeah.
we have not had that previously. So under the payroll side,
Yeah.
I believe. So that's a
Correct.
big difference, but an important piece to have. Yep.
Yep. So if there aren't any more questions, I'll just share.
What is ASR?
ASR. So that is an entity that officially manages. And Aaron, please correct me if I misspeak here. I'm still going to claim newbie. ASR is an entity that manages the building. So obviously, Young Israel uses the building, and so does Shas. So there are expenses that are shared between the two, between the school and the shul. So technically, ASR pays those bills, and what happens is we, the shul, and Shas pay into ASR, and then ASR pays the electric bill and other bills that are similar, heating, based on pre-agreed upon percentages of who pays what, and that's been going on for many years, from my understanding.
Correct. Yeah. So ASR is Ames Street Realty, and that's
Yeah.
the LLC that owns the building. Back when we had a mortgage, they were the ones who paid the mortgage, and the two organizations would pay ASR to disperse the funds. So like David mentioned, any of the shared expenses, the heating, the cooling, whatever, gets funneled through them, and that way there's a set split for that. Yep.
Well, why is fundraising $12,000 so far? What have you done?
Right. So, oh, sorry, I'm thinking High Holiday.
The expenses for fundraising. That's a good question. I will have to drill down on that. I
Yeah, I
get
mean,
a report.
I know one of the expenses are things like the Eitz Chaim. So if someone donates a leaf, there's an expense to get the leaf made up. So things like that. But yeah, David would have to look and see more details on what that comes from.
Great. Any other questions? So in terms of cash in the bank, in our operating account, we have 440. This is as of November 30th. Also, $440,832, which is notable because that is basically a year's worth of expenses in the bank, in the operating account alone. It's just about $40,000 shy, so it's definitely 6 months of expenses, which is great. And then in our savings account, we have 133,852, and then in our other savings account in Fidelity, which is like just a mutual fund kind of thing, savings account, money market rather, sorry, not mutual fund, money market is about $89,000. So in the two savings accounts, that totals $223,205. And then if you add up the 223 in the savings as well as what's in the operating, it's a total of $664,000.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
And again, I just want to mention anyone who joined in more recently, if you just want to put your first name and last name in the chat, just so we have a record of who was here. So thank you. Continuing on, just very briefly, the rear of the building, hopefully people noticed, of course, now it's cold out. We recently moved the dumpsters from right behind by the kitchen, right behind the sanctuary, to the back parking lot. This, number one, enhances the security to prevent dumpster fires, things like that, which has been an issue, has been a concern in the Boston area and here in Sharon. In addition, when we do have outdoor kiddush, which now we're not because it's cold, it just helps to enhance the experience of not having a dumpster right there, or people sitting in shul and looking out the windows. there's an idea, I believe someone was interested in helping to fund to do some sort of nicer patio back there, so it's not just loose gravel and whatnot and mud. So hopefully, come spring, we can look into that a little bit further. Also, very briefly, after the Yom Tovim this year, we recognized that many of our machzors were falling apart. We had a mix of a lot of the old Birnbaums that we got from other shuls over the years. Some were the 1 or 2 volume editions, and a lot of them were just falling apart. We had a couple donors approach the shul interested in replacing them. So we had a committee formed to help determine which machzor to go with, the Koren, the Art Scroll, Birnbaum, whatever. And so we decided to go with the Koren single volume. So it's a little bit bigger and thicker. But the 2 volume, as we know, it's easy for things to get lost in the building, and we've had that before. So we wanted to have just 1 book and not have to keep track of 2 different books. So we purchased 200 copies, which should take care of our need. They were shipped from Connecticut and they arrived like the next day. So we received all of them. This winter break, I believe we're going to have some teens helping to pull out the old ones and put the new ones into the cabinets where they're stored. That being said, if anyone has a use for a Birnbaum machzor and would like one, we're about to have a whole lot of extra copies, so people can feel free to take the old Birnbaum machzors if they need. Let me know if anyone has any questions about that. So that's exciting. We'll have a nice new common machzor moving forward.
Can I just make one comment about the Koren Siddur? It's a beautiful
Sure.
Siddur. The print isn't as good as the Birnbaum, but it's certainly better than the print of the Art Scroll. But a major problem with the new Siddur that we have is that each page is so thin that you can't, turn the page. I mean, basically, you have to lick your fingers to be able to get to the next page on occasion. Is that going to be the same problem with the new Koren edition machzors?
Yeah, so I know when the Koren came out, it was kind of a brand new, new entity. I myself haven't actually looked close at hand to these. When the rabbi and I took this picture, like we literally just opened the box. So that's a good question. I'll have to take a look. I'm hoping that they addressed that in that this has been made.
Aaron, this machzor is the print is bigger, the pages are better quality. This is not the Siddurim that we have.
Thank you. Yeah, I think with the Siddur, I think they learned from their initial production.
Yeah, and Aaron, I'll butt in also. I think they tried to find the Goldilocks position because it is still using what they call Bible paper. So that the thing is 1,000 pages, but it doesn't weigh a ton. So it's roughly the same weight as the Birnbaum, while having slightly more pages. But the pages are better than in the Koren Siddur, but they're still going to be thinner than you see in the Art Scroll machzor. So hopefully it works for everyone. The great thing is that they offered a 1-volume version, which Art Scroll does not have. So this is more efficient for us for a lot of reasons.
Less chance of us losing
the
that.
The other issue is you see that 200 were purchased, but there are 500 or 600 people attending the services for what's going to happen to the other 400.
Yeah, so I think the rabbi looked at how many copies we need as a minimum, and that's what they purchased. Yes, we have more people in theory, but not necessarily all who are there at the same time. I think down the road, if we need more, we'll certainly do that. But I think that was at least the initial purchase based on our primary demand.
May I ask a question about the process of choosing a new Siddurim or new machzorim? I guess we don't do it too often, but I think the new Sidorian came in and it was a surprise to me. I had not, I guess I had seen it one copy lying around, but it seemed that the whole shul switched over without much discussion. And I would say it was great that there's a committee formed, but I don't remember any surveys. Maybe I missed it. Getting opinions like Marvin's. I have the same opinion. Not only is the ink small, because of the thin pages, the ink bleeds through. So it's just harder for me to read. So I'm asking now, I've expressed my opinion about the quality of the print, but I'm asking what's the process to make large changes like this within the community?
Yeah, Michael, are you able to speak a little bit on the process?
A little bit. Rabbi Cheses would be a better person.
Yep.
This was I don't know, am I talking about the Siddur or the Machzor?
Either one.
Okay,
so go on.
We were blessed. I'll start with this. I'll talk about the Siddur because that I know more about that. We were very blessed with a generous donor that wanted to pay for the whole lot, which is a beautiful thing. So we sort of had to strike while the iron is hot. And Rabbi Cheses while we did not do a full community survey, if you did a full community survey, what you'd find is that 25% of the people would want Art Scroll, 25% would want Koren, and then the other half would be undecided. And we really only had 3 choices, and we wound up with the RCA. And the rabbi's not here, so I gotta be careful how I talk. But we looked at reviews, and the one that really spoke to me was that the RCA Siddur would be nobody's favorite, but is the least offensive. And I think when the committee looked at it, they kind of came to the same conclusion. For what it's worth, on the Siddur front, the Art Scroll Siddur that we had is no longer in print. They don't make it anymore. And what Art Scroll had as a replacement was deemed not as good. It's a long story. So there was no perfect solution. On the Machzor front, many people already own Art Scroll Machzorim, so people who like that have it. Many people own Koren, their own. The Birnbaum is, of course, out of print. And this particular Koren with the one, there really weren't that many options if you wanted to buy a 1-volume book. This is, I don't want to say this is it, because I'm sure somebody can find something else, but for having one that everyone could use for announcing pages, the thought was people who have very strong opinions have already bought their own Machzors anyway, and we will have, I don't want to start a free-for-all, but I'm sure that if anyone wants to hoard an old Birnbaum, we can make that happen for you.
Yep.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know if you want to do surveys on these things. I would at least ask people if they were happy or unhappy with the Birnbaums. But
the Birnbaum, the decision was made we were going to replace them because they're 50, 60 years old, and you can't buy them anymore. So that option was off the table. Okay. Unfortunately, without a time machine.
Yeah, and also, like you mentioned, Michael, the striking while the iron is hot, right? Same thing here. We had a donor come forward saying, "Hey, we're using these falling apart Machzors. Let's replace them." So that was also part of it as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, we certainly have a lot of the old Birnbaum. So if someone feels like they really love it, we can certainly provide you with one before they get boxed up and taken to the cemetery. So absolutely. Okay, thank you. In terms of the front lobby, again, over the Yom Tovim, this was brought up. There was a funding freeze from the agency that was providing us the grant. So we weren't able to do anything to anything that incurred a cost. So that process halted until last week. So that's part one. So now we can start to move forward. The other thing that happened is we went to the town to discuss our plans, our ideas. We wanted to bump the lobby out some to build that coat room. And the town, I think they had at one point told us, sure, no problem. Well, now they're saying no. They're saying any change to the footprint of the building would require bringing certain things up to code, which would greatly exceed the cost of this project. So we're going back to the design stage to work with some architects, designers to come up with ideas and plans. So the plan probably will not be as grand as we had wanted, but still replacing the doors, replacing the colored glass, making it easier visibility, easier to let people in and out, things like that. So we're in the design stage now. We will be working Young Israel and Shas together to make sure it meets everyone's needs there. The other thing is part of this project is we'll make sure things like the Eitz Chaim and the Shas donation board are kind of on the wrong walls. So things will get moved around when we finally get to that to that project. So no one's you haven't seen anything happen with it. That's why. And once we get past the new year, we'll continue working on that to get some designs going. And with that, speaking of surveys, we did, like every year after the Yom Tovim, a survey, and Michael Gerber is going to just speak for a minute or two on that. We did a survey, and like he said, we get a lot of conflicting data. We get a lot of not everything's always the most useful. So we'll yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. All right. So every year we send out a survey after Yamim Narayim. We try to take a little bit of a pulse. And I want you to know this is a stripped down version of this presentation for the board. I think we took, I want to say it was 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and went through all the responses. So every single note that you put was read by at least me, Aaron, and the rabbi, and then distilled and transmitted to the entire board for discussion. So we take these things very seriously. For tonight, so that we're not here for too much time, I'm going to hit the highlights, as it were. So here we go. So we received responses from 63 individuals this year, which is down from the past. Since over the last few years, we generally got closer to 80 responses. I don't know if we didn't do enough good of a job of reminding people or nagging people. Aaron is much more conscientious of not filling people's email boxes than maybe some of our previous presidents were. So there's a trade-off for that. No judgment on which is better. Just this is the reality. I want to say many people I really appreciate filled in open-ended responses. Those are much more useful to us than just putting in number values, as you'll see, because the number values are coming. But these open-ended responses are great. We had several clear themes. A lot of people talking about indoor davening, outdoor davening, which is great. Many people talking about children, and these comments came from both sides, either challenges of managing their own children and our children's programming, and then also a lot of comments on people being annoyed on how other people were managing their children. But I think that's normal. I'm thrilled to have these kind of comments back, and it is something we spend a lot of time. There's no easy solutions to these problems, but we do try to work it through. And as we mentioned, we hired a youth director this year. She was just getting started at the Yamim Narayim, but so far it's been a huge benefit, I think, and hopefully we can continue to build on this and improve what we're doing for kids. And then I will show you there's some comments that were mutually exclusive, like we get people that say the opposite sides of the same coin, which is always fun to me. All right, next slide. So I just want to show you who responded. This is the self-reported distribution of respondents. This is not how people were distributed at services. About half the people went to services in the tent, and they represented 44% of the people who responded. So it's a little off, but whatever. And then social hall was a smaller crowd, which makes sense. And then for Simchas Torah and Sukkos, this is who said they were here. So these are the people that were responding. Obviously, if people say they love davening outside, presumably they davened outside. Okay, next slide. So this is where I told you that the number values aren't particularly helpful. These are the quantitative scores that we've collected over the years. On the left graph, you see these are questions we've had going since 2018. Blue line is davening experience. That's been pretty solid. Sukkot Simchas Torah experience has been pretty stable. Children's experience has varied up and down over the years. As I mentioned, this is a hot topic, and we have had good years and bad years, and I think that's reflected in the data. For the other questions that we've been asking since COVID started, I don't know, I could either say there's no improvement, or I could say getting better than a 4 means most people are happy. So I think those are reassuring in terms of how people quantitatively view their experience at the shul. Now let's getting into some more of the fun stuff. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm just gonna share some big topic ideas that came across in the free response comments. Separated it out by question. And if you see a number in parentheses, that's the number of people that echoed this sentiment. Okay, so I distilled it down to like the essence of the comment. Remember, 63 responded. So it's very reassuring when, you know, something like 15% of the people said, you know, the davening was really nice. So the biggest comment we got on the survey was beautiful davening, great bali tefillah. So at least people are happy about that. So the rest of this is complaining, but or concerns, I should say. Let's see where they are. Always a lot of people say the service is too long. I'm with you. Once again, I gotta watch. You know, the rabbi's not here, so I agree with the people who said that. It's okay, but you know, we try to balance. Too cold on Yom Kippur. We don't control the weather. I davened inside, so once again, I'll be blunt. I always wondered how long this tent davening would last the first time we had crap weather, but I think people bore it out pretty well. There was a whole kerfluffle over where Ne'ilah was davened, and I think we all agreed on the board, at least, that this was handled inappropriately, and if something similar were to happen in the future, we would handle it better. So our apologies both for the messaging and what the message was. So we've spoken to the rabbi about this. You know, it was under a lot of stress, a game time decision. But I think if this were to happen again, it would be managed better. So point taken. Quite a few people noted that children were eating in the sanctuary Yom Kippur. This is something we'll have to work on because that's really not okay. And quite a few people noted that while it was nice that we everyone got to pick a minyan, what that meant was that none of the minyans were like crushed capacity, intense, everyone together, building each other up kind of davening like we had in the past. So that's a trade-off as well. But people did note that. All right, so for Sukkot and Simchas Torah, number one comment here, people really like hakafot outside. I think that's, I don't know, I'd like to say it's self-evident, but there you go. Nice to have the elbow room. Quite a few people noted food Simchas Torah night would be nice. So this is something we have to look at. There are probably reasons historically why we don't do this, but it is
Michael, if I could interrupt, it is being worked on from the programming committee. Just want everyone to know.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. All right, and yeah, that's enough for this. Oh, I will say, that we did have a few comments that, so the women's Torah reading was kind of in a cramped space this year, and for next year when we schedule that out, we'll find a better location, because that wasn't apparently that wasn't pleasant. So sorry about that. We'll try to address that. We put that in our notes for next year. Okay, moving along. Aaron told me not to take up too much time, so I'm talking fast. I hope you don't mind. Next one. All right. So children's programming. This was a tough one. It's always a tough one. Several people noted that they saw a lot of kids running around, just as a general comment. A few people were appreciative that we had what we had, and we always try our best. This is a tough topic because it was on a weekday, and but room for improvement always. But I'm more interested in the thought that there's like this kind of conflicting cultural issue where there's some people who feel like, gosh, kids are always in the sanctuary making so much gosh darn noise. And then people who have small kids have the feeling, I feel like my kids just aren't welcome in shul. Everyone's just so mean to me when my kid's there. And we're not going to solve this one tonight. This is something I think that's it's been going on for a while, but I don't know. You don't want to hear my advice is everyone try to like put yourself in someone else's shoes and be a little understanding. But this is something we can work on on a community, how best to make shul both welcoming for kids as well as the kids not being a giant distraction for people who are trying to focus. Okay, moving along. Oh, we had a safety and logistics questions. There were some interesting comments here. So this is when I talk about the mutually exclusive issue. Several people noted they were really happy that we had an outside option. And several people noted that they thought COVID is over, the tent is a giant waste of money. I'm not touching this one with a 10-foot pole other than to report that this is how people feel and we should respect people's feelings. There's that Neela came up, the whole Neela situation came up again. Once again, I feel bad about this. So sorry, we won't let that happen again. There was a thought that several people noted that masking and distance seatings were not enforced in the tent or the social hall. In the tent, we didn't have a mask section, so because it was outside. So I don't know, maybe there was a misunderstanding about what the goals were there, but anyway, we try. And then I think the last minute changes comments probably relates back to that Neela thing again, but there were a few other things that happened last minute. And all I can say is please have patience with us. It's tough. It's a lot of moving pieces trying to put this together. And sometimes you realize at the last minute that we did something that's not going to work. And so we have to fix it. And so sorry about that. We try to minimize when that happens. Next. And then on the supplemental materials, this one, hey, you know what? We got to own it. Good page number calling in the tent, bad page number calling in the sanctuary and the social hall. We'll try better. But if you like hearing page numbers, apparently the tent Gabayim, kudos to you, did a great job. And 3 people said they liked the rabbi's Divrei Torah, which is nice to hear that people go out of their way to say that. All right, one more question, one more slide, and then you'll be done with me. Sorry, Aaron.
All good.
So this was the question that I was most interested to see the results from, and really most people skipped it. So I don't know if it's because it was the last question on the survey and people were tired, they were out of ideas, or they really just didn't know the answer to the question. But I will say, and this goes out to anyone on this meeting, if you have friends that aren't here, I think if you're on this meeting, you care enough that I don't have to tell you this, but for everyone else, really, I think this is a great question coming out of the pandemic. What would make you excited about coming to shul? What interests you? I would say from my own observations, if one of your close friends is having a simcha, people show up for that. That's when we've been crowded recently. But I don't know. That's a good question. I know that the davening program is in theory addressing this somewhat, but it's only one aspect. I think really it'd be helpful for us to understand what's keeping people at home. And we'd love to know. I will say that of the responses we got, there were a few common themes, and the biggest one, once again, is children. I think our numbers bear out that one of our most popular programs is groups on Shabbos. People come in for groups. People like Tat Shabbat. That said, there are a lot of comments about lack of supervision for children being a persistent problem. The kids that don't want to be in groups, it's kind of hard. This whole idea of parents of young kids being afraid of being shushed or feeling like they're being shamed for being in shul. That's an issue we have to, I don't know how we address, because I know that I only sit on one half of the room. And it doesn't seem to be as much of a problem in the men's section, but I've heard stories about in the women's section that it can be a bit of an issue. So, and then I know there's several people, and I put myself in this camp that like when the kids are in the sanctuary. And here, this is my only soapbox moment. I think I went to the social hall minyan on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Okay, there were kids there. The kids were quiet. But you know what? The adults were quiet too. And I think that kids do what the adults do. And if you want kids to be quiet in shul, then adults have to be quiet in shul. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen. People like to talk to their friends. Part of that, one of the people come, they're excited to come to shul because they want to socialize. I get it. But don't complain. I'm trying to have this conversation with my buddy. I can't hear it because these kids are yelling. Well, the kids are talking because you're talking. Like they pick up on what we're doing. Anyway, that's that. I'll stop. That's my 2 cents on that topic. But I'd love it if we get to that point where we're all good role models and the kids are there, because I love seeing them there, and I love when they're participating in shul. But that's just me. Any questions? Once again, the board has gone through this. We tried to make actionable items that we can address, though some of these things, especially with the kids, this has been years already, and we'll keep coming up with new ideas, but it's an ongoing, it's always the work never stops, okay, on some of these issues.
Thank you so much for that and the color commentary. Very briefly, I just wanted to mention 2 other points. I know there's been an issue with the heat in the sanctuary. That is being addressed, being repaired. We had some mechanical failures in the equipment on the women's side, so that should be addressed hopefully by the end of this week. And then someone had asked about the rabbi's contract. The rabbi's current contract goes through through June of what did we say? June of 2024. So next year will be a contract year. So for anyone who's asking about that. From there, I know I wanted to keep it short, just to get this. Anyone who needs to get to Minyan. From there, I'll turn over any open discussion from any member. Happy to stick around for that. I'll also put my email up if anyone wants to email me anything separately. Happy for that as well. Oops. And again, if anyone wants, you can feel free to go off of mute. There's my email.
Yeah, I'll have a modest suggestion for mainly for Shabbos. Well, in the main sanctuary, it would be great if the women could control the lights in the women's section. I guess it's on weekdays. I've seen that the lights sometimes are off, and they have to have a man turn it on rather than being able to take care of it themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, they're all controlled on one side. Yep. Okay. I'll make a note of that. Thank you. Anyone else? Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, I'll stick around for a few more minutes, but I know There are some people who needed to get to Minion, and we said 8:30. Someone asked about update on security. So in terms of security, we do have the security guard who's there for Shabbos, Shabbos and Yontiv. We also have John Goldberg who does his patrols with his canine. We also are working with state and other agencies, including things like some national Homeland Security, various organizations that put out bulletins and things like that. There haven't been any major
Sorry, we just asked
updates or
about security
changes
update.
in
Someone
terms of security.
and Aaron goes, "We have John Goldberg." In addition to Schmier, but we have John Goldberg with his key.
Matt, we can all hear you.
Yeah, please go on mute.
Hey,
Thanks.
I was just telling Danielle about John's shout out, but I do have a question, Aaron, about, is there an update for Mr. Weinstein's house?
Nothing that I know of.
I think a shul member bought it, but that's, I don't think this is the right forum to discuss that.
No, the question was this, because there was a rumor, and I can't remember where I heard this, that he had left the house to the shul. And that's why I was asking that.
No.
No, I mean, there was a for sale sign up. Anyone else? Great. Well, if there's no other question, I think that will wrap it up. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Aaron, for doing this, and Michael too, everybody else.